Hi guys, it's Mrs. Longmire here. In the last several reading lessons that we've done together, we've talked about how readers make inferences. And we talked about how it could be several different types of text. It could be a picture, it could be a book that you're actually opening up and reading. It could be a book or a story on the computer or on your iPad. It can look lots of different ways, but you're going to take that plus the reading voice, some of those picture details and word details, what it actually says, plus what that thinking voice is telling you that it all means, those thoughts that you're having up in your head, your thinking voice, and that's going to equal an inference or a brand new idea. Something that the author didn't say. You came up with a brand new idea. And we talked about how it could look, you could use it like with the head. And we talked about how the details, the green details, those details from the book, the word details, the reading voice, those go on the outside. And then you start to put those thinking voice thoughts on yellow Post-it notes, and that went on the inside. And then we started to look for patterns and put things together, and then also memories that we have because maybe we've seen things like this before. And we put it all together to come up with a brand new idea, that inference in pink down at the bottom. Well, today we're going to talk about taking it a step further because sometimes good readers, after they make that inference, they want to write about it. And so we're going to take it a step further today and actually write about our inference. So I'm going to take off this anchor chart here for a second here, and we're going to kind of look at a new anchor chart, and it still has the same idea. Readers make inferences and explain them in writing. And that could look a couple of different ways. You might be a really great picture writer, which means you can draw great pictures about whatever you were reading about and maybe start to label some of the things in the pictures, some of the words, or you may be starting to actually write sentences and putting words together. And so it could look a couple of different ways. If you're a picture writer, then you always start with your inference. Writers always start first with their inference, their new thought. And then they write about the details, those reading voice details that help them come up with that thought. Okay? And so if you're a picture writer, you would write your answer at the top, your inference, right? And then you could draw your picture, and then you could start to label a couple of things in your picture. And I'm going to show you what that could look like in just a second. Or if you're starting to write words and you can write a sentence, then you may draw your picture, write your inference first, always write your inference first, your new thought first, draw your picture, and then you might write a sentence like, I know, and then you put your inference, your new thought, because, and then you put those details in there that helps you to come up with that new thought. Okay, so that could be up to you or your teacher. Your teacher may decide that she wants you just to draw pictures, or she wants you to draw a picture and try to write a sentence. So it could look a couple of different ways, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to do it first, and you guys are going to watch me, and then you're going to get a chance to try it with me. Okay, so if we go back to our clothesline clues, our book that we read the last time, we actually found it on Epic. So I'm going to share my screen of this first page so you remember. But it was oven mitts, apron, recipe for stew, puffy hat, and whisk. What job does she do? Okay, so we came up, remember our new inference, our new thought was that he is a chef. That was our inference. Okay, and then some of those details that we used, we talked about his whisk, his oven mitts, his apron, and his recipe, and his puffy hat. Those were those reading voice details that we collected. And then our thinking voice, when we talked about the oven mitts, we talked about how those are to hold hot things. And the apron is so we didn't get messy. And the recipe was so that we could follow directions. And the food will turn out yummy and perfect. And the hat, fancy cooks wear hats. We knew that. That was our thinking voice thought. And then the whisk was that it was a special cooking tool. And so we put all those thinking voice thoughts together and we came up with, he is a chef. So if I were going to write this, I would just use it like a certain paper, or you wouldn't even have to be a special paper. You could just have a square. You could draw a big square at the top for your picture and draw a line right above that square for your inference, your new thought, right? And so for this, our inference was, he is a chef. That was our pink inference. So I put that here, chef. And then I drew a picture. And I picked 3 details that I thought were the most important that helped me to come up with that he was a chef. And so I thought number 1 was recipe. I thought that was, most times when I think about a cook, I think about him following a recipe and going in order. And so I put recipe, and I drew a picture of the recipe, and I labeled, and I wrote the word recipe. And then my second thought was an apron. When I think about cooks, I think about aprons and how they wear those so they don't get messy. And so I drew the apron and I labeled the word apron. Those were our reading voice details. And then my third one, I thought oven mitts, because a lot of times you would use an oven mitt to cook, right? You wouldn't do a whole lot else with oven mitts. So my third detail was oven mitts. So I drew a picture of the chef wearing an oven mitt, and I labeled oven mitts. Okay? And then I wrote, I know, remember that? I know it is a chef because of the recipe, apron, and oven mitts. And I stopped it with a big period at the end. Okay, so you could stop here. You could just draw the picture and label the 3 most important details, and that could be your writing. Or if you think you can write a sentence, you could write, I know it is a chef because of the recipe, apron, and oven mitts, and put those 3 most important reading voice details as your evidence. Kind of you're proving why you think it was a chef. Okay, so that's what it could look like. So you guys are going to help me now try to do one yourself. So I'm going to take these Post-its off. And the other page that we did in this book together last time was the firefighter. Remember the firefighter page? And so I'll share it on the screen in case you forget what it looked like. Here it is. Okay, the firefighter. So our new thought, or our inference, was she is a firefighter. That was our new thought. Okay, and then some of those details were she had a helmet, she had heavy pants, she had a long hose, she had a fire on her helmet. That was a picture detail. She had wide suspenders to hold her pants upright, and then she had a rescue coat. Right? Those were the thinking voice thoughts, and then our reading voice thoughts, and then our thinking voice thoughts. The heavy pants protect your legs. The suspenders hold up the heavy pants. That's what we were thinking about. The helmet protects the head from fire. Fire picture on the helmet. The long hose can stretch a long way. Rescue coat means she's rescuing and saving someone. That was our thinking voice thought. And then this went with helmet too. Protects head. And then protects head from fire. Okay, so those were all of our thinking voice thoughts. So right now, I want you to think about what was the most important detail that helped you to know it's a firefighter. I want you to think about it and look at those details, and I want you to take your pointing finger and I want you to point to the most important detail that helped you to know. Were you pointing to helmet? Maybe you're thinking like I'm thinking, and you think helmet's a pretty important detail, or rescue coat. Because rescue means you're saving someone. So that makes me think about a firefighter. Is that what you were thinking? And one more. The heavy pants, the suspenders, or the hose? Point to it. Were you thinking the long hose? Whenever I see a long hose like that, I think about a fireman. Were those the 3 details you were thinking of? Helmet, rescue coat, and long hose? Okay. So, if we were to write about it, remember the first thing we do, what do we write first? The inference, right? We always start with the inference. And so the inference was, she's a firefighter, right? So you would write firefighter, and I use pink because that's our inference color, right? Firefighter. Then you could draw a picture, and I made sure to include those 3 details that we talked about in the picture. The long hose, the helmet, and the rescue coat. And I made sure I labeled those 3 details because those were the ones we were thought were most important. And if you're a picture writer, that's where you would stop. You would just draw the picture and you would label the 3 most important details. If you want to try to write a sentence, you would start with, think about what you would start with first. Did you say the inference? Yeah. I know, right? I know it is a firefighter. So I wrote that. I know it is a firefighter. What will come next? Did you say because? Now I got to give my reasons, right? Because of the helmet, and I can look back up at my labels, helmet, rescue coat, and long hose. So I can put those 3 details that I chose at the end of the sentence. And then don't forget your period, right? You want to stop that sentence. I know it is a firefighter because of the helmet, rescue coat, and long hose, period. That's a long sentence, isn't it? Now, if you were in Mrs. Longmire's class, I would have you do some more of this writing and go back to the other pages in this book, like you did the other day when you were using your reading and thinking voice and making an inference. Go back to a couple of pages and try the writing out. And I will put the form on here if you want to print it out that has the square and some lines, but you wouldn't need that, would you? You could just draw a big square and put a line at the top for your inference, and then a big square for your picture, and then pick 3 details, 3 of the most important details, and label those in the picture. And then if you want to take it a step further and write a sentence, you could write, I know, and then you could put it is a firefighter because, and then you put your details why. I know, put your inference, because, and then you put your details, your reading voice details. So if you were in my class, that's what I would have you do. But your teacher may have a different idea.